shroud completely inspires those who believe in it because we have to remember, Jesus left no physical trace of himself on earth. He wrote nothing. There's no archaeological evidence, actually, that he existed.
What if one of the most argued over objects in human history wasn't simply an image, but a recording? When modern AI systems were applied to the Shroud of Turin, they didn't uncover brushstrokes, pigments, or signs of medieval forgery. Instead, they revealed depth, structure, and astonishing precision, features no known technology should have been able to create. And that revelation has pushed researchers to confront an unsettling question. What really happened on this cloth? A mystery that refuses to fade. At first glance, the shroud barely seems to show anything at all, just a faint discoloration, a shadowy outline, an image so subtle that standing too close makes it disappear. But step back, change the lighting, let your eyes adjust, and suddenly a human figure comes into focus, front and back, imprinted onto a single linen cloth more than 14 feet long. The man appears brutally injured, beaten, scourged, and crucified. His wounds align with chilling accuracy to the descriptions found in the gospel accounts of Jesus Christ. For believers, the shroud has long been regarded as sacred. For skeptics, it has often been dismissed as a medieval curiosity or an elaborate hoax. For scientists, however, it has become one of the most perplexing physical artifacts ever examined. And now, in the 21st century, a new voice has entered the discussion: artificial intelligence. This isn't AI designed to defend faith, nor is it programmed to debunk belief. These are systems built for forensic reconstruction, medical imaging, and historical analysis. Tools capable of detecting patterns, depth, and data far beyond human perception. What these systems uncovered shocked experts across multiple fields. This wasn't a simple enhancement. It wasn't just a sharper image. The AI revealed measurable depth. It uncovered a three-dimensional structure. It exposed medical-level detail encoded directly into the fibers of the cloth itself. With that discovery, the Shroud of Turin stopped being just an ancient linen bearing a mysterious image. It became something else entirely, a data-rich object that behaves less like a painting and more like a medical scan. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe if you're interested in deep, evidence-based explorations of biblical history, ancient mysteries, and the intersection of faith and science. What follows doesn't end the debate surrounding the Shroud of Turin. It pushes it further than ever before. The shroud that defied every era. The Shroud of Turin has never fit comfortably into any historical box. Measuring roughly 14 feet long and just over 3 feet wide, the linen cloth carries the faint front and back imprint of a naked man laid out as if prepared for burial. The figure shows signs of extreme physical trauma, puncture wounds in the wrists and feet, a deep wound in the side, and severe scourging across the back, injuries that match, with disturbing precision, the known methods of Roman crucifixion. And yet, despite centuries of study, no one has been able to fully explain how this image was formed, or why it continues to reveal details that shouldn't exist at all. And swelling around the face and shoulders. But what truly separates the shroud from every other historical artifact is not what it shows, but how it shows it, or more precisely, how it doesn't. There are no brush marks, no layers of pigment, no traces of paint soaking into the fabric, no dyes embedded in the threads. Under microscopic examination, the linen fibers beneath the image remain virtually untouched. The discoloration exists only on the very outer surface of the fibers, affecting less than a fraction of their thickness. It's as if the image rests on the cloth, rather than being applied to it. For centuries, this made the shroud frustratingly difficult to see. The image is faint, almost elusive. Many people struggled to make sense of it at all. It appears strangely inverted. Light areas where shadows should be, dark regions where highlights normally exist, almost like a photographic negative. But this baffling quality went unexplained until the late 19th century, when photography entered the story. In 1898, when the first photographic negative of the shroud was developed, something astonishing happened. The image snapped into focus. What had appeared vague and ghost-like to the naked eye suddenly became sharp and unmistakable. Facial features emerged with clarity. Body proportions looked natural and anatomically correct. The wounds aligned in ways medieval religious art never portrayed. The negative didn't obscure the image, it revealed it. What had looked like a shadow now resembled a real human being, detailed, proportional, undeniably physical. That discovery alone raised disturbing questions. Photography did not exist in the Middle Ages. The concept of negative imaging was completely unknown, and yet the shroud behaved as if it had been designed to be understood by future technology. As time passed, scientists from nearly every discipline began examining it. Chemists, physicists, pathologists, textile experts, historians. Each new analysis seemed to answer one question, only to uncover several more. Pollen grains embedded in the cloth match plant species native to the Middle East, not medieval Europe. Blood residues behaved like real human blood, not paint or dye. Even more perplexing, the blood appeared to have been deposited before the image formed, an ordering that is nearly impossible to replicate artistically. Carbon dating tests complicated the picture further. Some results suggested a medieval origin, while others raised serious concerns about contamination, later repairs, fire damage, and limited sampling. Rather than settling the debate, the test deepened it. The more researchers investigated, the stranger the shroud became. How could someone centuries ago create an image with photographic properties long before photography existed? How could they embed information that behaves like three-dimensional relief when analyzed mathematically? How could they encode medical accuracy that aligns perfectly with modern forensic understanding of crucifixion, knowledge that simply wasn't available in earlier eras? The shroud seemed to exist outside of time, refusing to belong fully to antiquity, the Middle Ages, or the modern world. And that refusal is exactly what drew science in. When artificial intelligence entered the debate, artificial intelligence wasn't introduced to the Shroud of Turin to prove divinity or expose deception. The goal was far more modest. Researchers wanted to apply advanced image analysis techniques, the same tools used in forensic investigations, medical diagnostics, and archaeological reconstruction, to see whether hidden information could be extracted from high-resolution digital scans. The AI systems were trained to detect depth, contour, and spatial relationships within complex visual data. These are the same technologies used to reconstruct faces from skulls, interpret CT scans, and generate three-dimensional models from damaged artifacts. When researchers fed the shroud's data into these systems, they expected minor improvements, perhaps better contrast or clarity. They did not expect a breakthrough. Instead of flattening the image or introducing distortion, the AI detected consistent depth information across the entire figure. When processed, the data produced a coherent three-dimensional model of a human body. The face emerged with realistic proportions. The nose projected naturally. The eyes sat correctly within their sockets. The cheeks, jawline, and musculature followed anatomical norms. Even subtle variations in muscle tension and body contour appeared spatially accurate. This is not how paintings behave. If you try to extract depth from a normal image, the result collapses into noise. A painting contains no real spatial data, only illusion created through shading and perspective. But the shroud behaved differently. The brightness and darkness of the image correlated directly with the distance between the cloth and the body that once lay beneath it. In simple terms, the shroud appears to record how far each part of the body was from the cloth at the moment the image formed. That realization stopped researchers cold. No known medieval technique could encode three-dimensional spatial data into fabric without pigments, tools, or measuring instruments. No artistic process can create an image that doubles as a topographical map of a human body, and yet that is exactly what the AI reconstruction revealed. Without inventing details, without guessing, simply by decoding what was already there. The shroud was no longer just an image, it was information, and once that understanding took hold, the implications became impossible to ignore. When AI read the body like a medical record, once the artificial intelligence completed its three-dimensional reconstruction, the investigation crossed an irreversible threshold. Until that moment, the shroud had lived mainly in the realms of theology, history, and visual analysis. But now a full human body had emerged, complete with proportions, contours, and anatomical consistency. This was no longer just about imagery. It was about injuries. And injuries belong to medicine. That shift brought an entirely new group into the discussion. Forensic pathologists, trauma specialists, and physicians trained to read damage written into muscle, bone, and skin. Many were natural skeptics, conditioned to distrust assumptions and focus solely on physical evidence. They were shown the AI-generated model with no commentary, no interpretation, and no indication of what they were supposed to see. What followed wasn't excitement, it was silence. As the specialists examined the reconstruction, patterns began to emerge. Patterns disturbingly consistent with real-world trauma. The risks immediately drew attention. For centuries, artists depicted crucifixion nails driven through the palms. But modern anatomy shows that the palms cannot support a human body's weight. The AI model revealed trauma not in the palms but through the wrist area, exactly where nails would need to pass between the carpal bones to hold a body upright. This wasn't symbolic. It was mechanically correct. So, the shoulders told a similar story. The reconstruction showed evidence of repeated strain and subtle deformation consistent with heavy downward pressure. The muscles and joints suggested arms pulled upward and outward for extended periods, bearing significant weight, precisely what would occur during crucifixion. The strain patterns weren't exaggerated, they were clinical. As the model rotated, attention moved to the back. Under AI enhancement, faint marks became unmistakable. Dozens of small wounds covered the back, shoulders, and legs, each with a distinctive shape. Medical experts recognized them immediately. These were injuries caused by a Roman flagrum, a whip fitted with bone or metal tips designed to tear flesh. The spacing, depth, and irregular angles indicated repeated strikes delivered with force from multiple directions. This wasn't artistic symbolism, it was documentation. The face revealed even more. Swelling around the cheeks and eyes indicated blunt trauma. The nose appeared damaged, consistent with a hard blow. Bruising patterns suggested multiple impacts from different directions. Even the beard area showed signs of stress, as if hair had been violently pulled. These details had always been there, just too subtle for the naked eye to fully register. Perhaps the most haunting revelation came from the legs. The posture encoded in the image suggested repeated movement, slumping downward, then pushing upward again. Medical experts recognized this instantly as the body's response to slow suffocation. Crucifixion victims don't die quickly. They die when exhaustion prevents them from lifting themselves enough to breathe. The AI model captured that struggle, frozen in linen. What disturbed the experts most wasn't that the injuries matched biblical descriptions. It was that they matched modern forensic understanding of crucifixion, knowledge that did not exist in the medieval world. The AI hadn't interpreted the injuries. It had simply revealed them. And at that point, everything changed. The investigation reached a chilling realization. If this image were a forgery, it would require medical knowledge centuries ahead of its time, encoded invisibly into fabric using a method no one can identify. That conclusion left the room with a question no one could answer. The image that shouldn't exist. Even after the medical analysis, one mystery overshadowed all others. Not who the man was, not how he died, but how his image came to exist on the cloth at all. To address that, researchers shifted their focus away from the body and back to the fabric itself. The linen fibers of the shroud had been examined many times before, but never with the combined precision of modern microscopy and AI-assisted pattern analysis. When these tools were used together, the results were baffling. The image was not embedded in the cloth. It was not absorbed into it. In fact, it barely touched it. Under extreme magnification, scientists observed that only the outermost layer of individual fibers had changed color. Not the entire thread, not even the full fiber, just the surface fibrils, thinner than a human hair by several orders of magnitude. The discoloration stopped abruptly, as if the cloth had been exposed to something for only a fraction of a moment before the effect vanished. This behavior ruled out every known artistic method. Paint penetrates fibers, dyes soak in, heat scorches deeper layers, chemical stains spread. But the shroud refused to behave like any of them. There were no brush marks, no pigment particles, no binding agents, no chemical residue that could explain intentional application. AI-assisted analysis reinforced the conclusion. The algorithm searched for repeating patterns associated with the human craftsmanship and found none. Instead, they detected uniformity across the entire image, suggesting a single simultaneous event rather than a process applied piece by piece. The image also behaved like a photographic negative, with light and dark values reversed. Yet photography would not exist for another 600 years. More puzzling still, the image encoded distance information. Areas closer to the cloth appeared darker, while areas farther away appeared lighter, allowing AI systems to reconstruct depth with remarkable accuracy. Paint cannot do that. Photography wasn't available. And no medieval technology could invisibly encode spatial data into fabric. Reluctantly, some researchers began exploring a possibility they hesitated to name. The image formation appeared consistent with a rapid energy interaction, something capable of altering molecular structures at the surface level without burning, tearing, or penetrating in the cloth. Some compared it to ultraviolet radiation. Others avoided labels entirely, saying only that the mechanism remains unknown. To be clear, no one proved a supernatural event had occurred, but no one could demonstrate a natural or artificial process that explained all the evidence either. The image appeared to exist in a category of its own. Attempts to recreate the shroud have failed for decades. Some experiments mimic the appearance but lack depth. Others affect surface fibers but produce no coherent image. None achieve both while also encoding anatomical accuracy in three-dimensional data. The AI findings didn't solve this mystery. They made it impossible to dismiss. The shroud no longer looked like an object waiting to be debunked. It looked like something waiting to be understood, an artifact that didn't fit neatly into history, science, or art. And with every layer peeled back, the same unsettling truth emerged. This image should not exist, not with the tools of the ancient world, not with the knowledge of the medieval era, not even easily with modern technology. And yet there it was, silent, fragile, and stubbornly unexplained. The face AI revealed and why it changed everything. Once the artificial intelligence finished assembling the three-dimensional data hidden within the shroud, the final step became inevitable. The system began reconstructing the face. Many researchers approached this moment with caution, even discomfort. Faces carry emotional weight. They invite interpretation. And they can blur the line between objective analysis and meaning. But what emerged was not sensational. It was not dramatic. It was quiet. The AI did not exaggerate features or smooth imperfections. It did not idealize the face or impose artificial symmetry. Instead, it translated depth, contours, and spatial information already present in the cloth into a visible form. What appeared on the screen was a Middle Eastern man, likely in his early 30s. He had a broad nose, deep-set eyes, a full beard, and long hair parted at the center. His facial structure was strong but unassuming, distinct but not stylized. What struck observers most was the expression. Despite the extensive trauma evident across the body, the face was not frozen in pain. There was swelling, bruising, and damage consistent with violent blows, yet the overall expression was calm. The eyes were closed, the mouth was relaxed. There was no grimace, no contortion of suffering, only stillness. For many in the room, that detail was unexpectedly unsettling. The AI had not created an expression. It had revealed one, and that expression suggested the moment captured by the shroud was not during agony, but after it. The injury spoke of brutality, the face spoke of rest. Further analysis revealed striking consistency. The facial proportions aligned precisely with the skull dimensions implied by the shroud's image. The symmetry was natural, not artistic. Artists tend to idealize faces, often without realizing it. This face resisted that impulse. It felt unfiltered, human. When compared with centuries of artistic depictions of Jesus, something surprising emerged. Across cultures and eras, many traditional icons share. It revealed only what was already there, encoded at a level too subtle for the human eye. The face was not generated, it was decoded. As images of the reconstruction circulated among researchers, Reactions split sharply. Some saw it as a technological achievement. Others felt an emotional weight they hadn't expected. A few admitted that, regardless of belief, seeing the face changed how they perceived the shroud. It stopped being an abstract mystery. It became personal. For the first time, technology hadn't distanced people from the relic. It had brought them closer. And that closeness made the next phase of the debate far more intense. Why the debate didn't end, but became more dangerous. In science, discoveries usually reduce uncertainty. They narrow possibilities. They bring closure. What happened with the Shroud of Turin was the opposite. Artificial intelligence did not settle the debate. It fractured it. Skeptics argued that no matter how compelling the data appeared, technology cannot establish identity. A three-dimensional image does not equal authentication. Correlation is not causation. Medical accuracy does not automatically prove historical truth. These objections were reasonable. Science demands restraint, but supporters responded with a challenge of their own. If the shroud is not authentic, then what exactly is it? To maintain the forgery hypothesis, one must now explain not just an image, but an object that encodes medical, anatomical, and spatial data centuries ahead of its time, without tools, pigments, or methods capable of producing it. And that is where the debate became truly uncomfortable. Critics now faced a growing list of anomalies: a negative image created centuries before photography, undistorted three-dimensional depth, anatomically precise injuries consistent with Roman execution, and fiber-level discoloration limited to the cloth's outermost surface. No pigments, no Ds, no tools, no known process. Every proposed explanation addressed one detail but failed to explain them altogether. Radiation theories entered the discussion reluctantly, some researchers noting similarities to ultra-short energy bursts seen only in laboratory settings, others rejecting such ideas as speculative. Historians pointed to medieval carbon dating, while counter-arguments highlighted contamination, repairs, and flawed sampling. What made this moment different was AI. It shifted the burden of explanation. The shroud could no longer be dismissed as crude or easily fabricated. It appeared precise, coherent, and resistant to simple debunking. Believers urged caution, skeptics refined their objections, conferences multiplied, and the mystery deepened. AI didn't solve the Shroud of Turin, it exposed the limits of our understanding. And that may be the most unsettling conclusion of all.